Just last week, the White House proclaimed April National Cancer Prevention and Early Detection Month. This comes as a survey found nearly 7 in 10 U.S. adults are behind on at least one routine cancer screening.
Pretty concerning, right? And one of the top reasons for being behind on those screenings is simply that people didn't know that they needed to be screened. Joining us to continue the conversation this morning is Jody Hoyos, the CEO of the Prevent Cancer Foundation. Jody, good morning to you. Jody, can you hear us?
Good morning.
There we go. So what other compelling information
I have you.
Okay, what other compelling information did your most recent survey uncover about cancer screenings in the U.S.?
It's pretty alarming that 7 out of every 10 of us are missing an opportunity to prevent cancer or detect it early. So, preventing it would be the ideal. Early detection, it gives us the better or best outcomes. And so we really want to capitalize on the opportunity to share information in a way that people need to hear it. So we know, for example, that when people learn the benefits of early detection, they're more likely to schedule their screening. It's really important for them to know, not just the what, but the why. Clearly, people need to know the what. That is the top reason people aren't getting their screening, as you said, is that they simply didn't know they need to be screened. It's interesting, though, looking at the information, there were additional barriers that were cited when we're looking across different racial and ethnic groups in the United States. So, for example, Hispanic adults cited an inability to afford the cost of a screening as a reason for not being up to date. Black adults cited skepticism in the healthcare system as a reason for not being up to date. These are real issues. They're real concerns for people, and we want to make sure that we're using different approaches for reaching people and that we're encouraging innovation, both in sharing information and increasing access to screenings. And the screenings themselves, there's a lot of exciting things happening in the screening space now.
I know that I have, history of cancer in my family. How important is it to know your family's history when it comes to cancer screenings?
It's important information to know, and I'm glad that you know your family history of cancer, Steve. There is, that information should be used. If you can get it, share that information with your provider so they can determine when you should start your screening and how often you need to be screened. The challenge is that there's a big misconception out there that people who don't have a family history of cancer don't need to be screened. In fact, it was the second most common reason reported in our survey for why people are missing their screenings. So the truth is that most people who receive a cancer diagnosis don't have a family history of cancer. So looking about 5 to 10% of cancers are hereditary. So again, we don't want to dismiss family history of cancer. It is important. It's information you should have if you can. Talk to your healthcare provider. But everyone, regardless of their family history of cancer, needs to be getting their screenings.
What do you think might encourage more people to schedule their routine doctor's appointments or cancer screenings?
It's really interesting to learn about what would encourage more people to schedule their routine appointments. What we learned is that people need to be reminded, and we need to make it easy for them to schedule the appointments. So things like text, email, phone call reminders, as well as the ability to schedule appointments online or through an app are really important in making sure people get the benefits of early detection.
Is there a good go-to source that we can pass along to our viewers, Jody, about, when or at what age you should typically get one of those screenings for the various types of cancer that are out there?
There are some fantastic go-to resources at preventcancer.org, actually. So you can find a handy, easy-to-use chart with the screenings you need at every age. You can find low and no-cost screening locations, and you can create a personalized health plan that you can print out and bring with you to your provider's office. Again, it's at preventcancer.org.
Thank you so much, Jody. We'll be sure to pass that one along. We appreciate the information.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you think about the limited access, the barriers to making those appointments as being one of the reasons people aren't getting those screenings. That's a concern.
Yeah.
You've got costs. Maybe there's not enough transportation. She also mentioned how people are skeptical of doctors visits, medical visits, and those screenings and whatnot. Not having a whole lot of trust or faith in the system. But it's so important to take those preventative measures and be reminded. I love that she mentioned that as being a method to get more people screened. Those simple reminders, not only of the appointments and screenings, but of the dangers, you know, if you miss something.
It can make a big difference, and I have to imagine that just not wanting to know might be part of the reason for not getting those screenings too. If you don't know, then you don't have to worry about it in theory, but it's so important to catch that early if you can, which can help in that process of recovery and survival.